Hi, Rama. It's week 29, day 4 of our Bible narrative reading plan. Today we are in 2 Chronicles chapter 24. We return to the southern kingdom of Judah, and we learned about the reign of King Joash here in 2 Chronicles 24. It's a parallel from 2 Kings chapters 11 and 12. I point that out to you now. When you look at the end of 2 Chronicles 24, you see in verse 27 that standard formula that we see about a lot of these kings. Aren't the rest of their deeds written in the book of so-and-so? And some of those are sometimes other books that we don't have today, but the chronicler, like a good historian, consulted the other history books of his day, and he pulled records and accounts from there. But here in 2 Chronicles 24, verse 27, it talks about, are they not written in the story of the book of the kings? And that's referring to our book of Kings that we've divided into 1st and 2nd Kings. So you can see the story of Joash here in 2 Chronicles 24. It's pulled from 2 Kings 11 and 12 with additions by the chronicler. So again, I point that out. He's a historian. He's doing his research and he's adding things from his own research. And so a lot of what you see here, 2 Chronicles, you also see in 2 Kings, but there are additions. All right, with all that in mind, we learned about King Joash. He's in the southern kingdom of Judah. He began reigning when he was 7. We can't imagine that, but just because of the time of his father's death, that's how he becomes king. He begins to reign. He reigns 40 years. We see his mother's name, and then we hear verse 2, Joash did what was right in the eyes of the Lord all the days of Jehoiada the priest. Notice it doesn't say Joash did what was right in the eyes of the Lord all of his life. It was just when Jehoiada was the priest and was giving him wise counsel, and Joash listened to him. But then later on, Joash didn't. We see that. Some of the good stuff we hear in the beginning, the first part of 24, we see that Joash decided to restore the house of the Lord, to rebuild the temple. And that's a very good thing to do. He's instructed the Levites to go gather the taxes that they're supposed to gather based off of the law of Moses, the commandments already given to the people. But it tells us in verse 5, the Levites did not act quickly. One of the few criticisms that we see here of the Levites in the book of 2 Chronicles. But we understand that he's got a lot of work to do to rebuild. There had been a lot of damage done because of the wicked queen Athaliah, who was the daughter of Ahaz and Jezebel. You can read about her in 2 Kings 11. But now Joash has decided to rebuild the temple. He's sending out the Levites to collect the taxes that are owed to them. And how do the people respond? Notice in verse 10, the princes and all the people rejoiced and brought their tax. Rebuilding the temple was not a burden, it was a blessing. Being able to go to the house of the Lord was a blessing to them and not a burden. And so they successfully rebuild the temple in all of its glory. Things are good. But then remember that Joash is doing good things because he is getting instruction from Jehoiada. But then you get down to verses 15 through 19, Jehoiada dies. Now, he's a very old man. He lived to be 130, and he's buried among the kings, which is a high honor for a priest. So Jehoiada is a very unique priest. But then after his death, others come to Joash, and he begins to listen to them. And he begins to obey their faulty counsel. Just as he had listened to Jehoiada's good counsel, now he listens to faulty counsel from others, and he begins making bad decisions. He begins sinning against the Lord, even when God sends a prophet, Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada, the priest. So good priest, giving him good advice. His son comes. He doesn't listen to him. He doesn't listen to Zechariah. By the way, this is a different Zechariah than the one that we have a book of the Bible named after. And so he doesn't listen to Zechariah, and he eventually has Zechariah killed. He doesn't want to hear the word of the Lord, and he kills Zechariah unjustly. So what happens after that? Remember, we've seen Joash go from doing what was right. Now he's doing what's wrong in the eyes of the Lord. And the Lord sends the army of the Syrians, verse 24, with only a few men. Not a big army, just a few men. But because Judah had forsaken the Lord, the God of their fathers, verse 24 tells us God allowed Judah to fall in this battle. And ultimately, Joash is killed. He's wounded severely, verse 25 tells us, but then his servants conspire against him. Just as Joash conspired against Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada, now his servants, Joash's servants, conspire against him, and he dies. And he's buried in the city of David, but he's not buried with the kings. The great high priest, Jehoiada, he was buried with the kings, but Joash is not. And he meets his sad end because he does not listen to the word of the Lord. Here's a summary of today's reading. For more information, go to tunemyheart.org.